Hi, this is Trevor Johnson.
And this is Charlie Murata, and we are presenting the effects of globalization on the sport of soccer in Israel.
Globalization is defined as a force or process that involves the entire world and results in making something worldwide in scope. One way Israel is experiencing globalization is in soccer. The global forces and the local impacts of globalization of soccer in Israel are based on three aspects. These three aspects include mobilization of capital, mobilization of labor, and cultural flows. Mobilization of capital refers to the investments countries such as Israel make in teams and players. Mobilization of labor refers to the soccer players that are imported and exported in and out of Israel. Cultural flows refer to the global icons and changed identities the teams have on its nation.
In general, soccer has become globalized because of Europe and its expansion of soccer. Through the leagues such as UEFA and FIFA, soccer expanded from a national to an international sport. UEFA stands for Union of European Football Associations, and FIFA stands for the Federation International of Football Association. These two organizations have increased global participation in soccer with the tournaments such as the UEFA Cup and the FIFA World Cup. This increased participation and globalization of soccer has impacted Israel and its game of soccer. In recent years, Israel has grown as a country that produces top-flight players that play in professional leagues all around the world. For example, one of the most famous Israeli soccer players is currently playing in Liverpool, England. His name is Yossi Benayoun. Many of his Israeli national team teammates have taken the same steps as he has of playing overseas. In fact, only 12 out of 21 players that play for Israel play professional Israeli soccer.
Globalization of soccer in Israel was taking effect in the early 1980s. Prior to the 1990s, investments of capital in Israeli soccer teams were few and far between. Most of the Israeli teams were supported through donations rather than investments. In September 1990, a British businessman named Robert Maxwell was negotiating to purchase Beitar Jerusalem. Maxwell was interested in purchasing this Israeli team because it was one of the best and most popular Israeli teams. However, in 1991, Maxwell passed away and the investment in Beitar Jerusalem was never accomplished. Maxwell was a good example of a foreign capital attempt to invest in Israeli soccer. In 1993, Israeli local Yaakov Shakor purchased the management rights of Maccabi Haifa. The following decade resulted in most of the top clubs in Israel to be transferred to private management. The shift from a local sport to global sport has transformed soccer from a sport to a commodity. When teams were once struggling for revenue, they are now sponsored by investors that treat them like a product or service. This system of sponsors and investors is similar to systems seen in professional football leagues around the world. For instance, just as Liverpool is sponsored by Carlsberg Beer, Maccabi Haifa is sponsored by Yaakov Shahara, an Israeli car importer.
In 1952, the first foreign soccer player was imported into the Israeli league. In 1962, two other non-Israeli players were imported, and then Israel banned importation of players until 1987. In the early 1960s, the first Israeli players were beginning to be exported to overseas leagues. The importation and exportation of soccer players in and out of Israel was based on the difference in salary a player could make depending on the exchange value of the country. The decisions of the Israeli clubs to import its players was based on the fact that they could get a foreign player with equal talent for half the price of a local player due to Israelis' tax regulations. Nowadays, it is not unusual to see clubs spend upwards of $1 million on a player.
Soccer in Israel has been a good contributor of state and nation building. State building is defined as the establishment and expansion of institutions to carry out governmental function, while nation building is defined as the efforts by a state to promote a sense of territorial or national identity. These two systems were visible in October 1948 when an Israel national team traveled to the United States to play against local teams. The tour was initiated and organized by Israel, and its army oversaw the trip. The expansion to international soccer games led to a national spirit and support of the Israeli soccer teams. Israeli teams were the symbol of the nation, and the fans showed their loyalty to their teams. However, globalization of soccer in Israel caused an expansion in the competition for fan support. Local Israeli teams were now not the only team available to Israeli fans. With the creation of satellite television and internet, Israeli fans were able to watch international soccer games. Globalization of soccer in Israel has positively affected culture because it is seen not as a threat but rather as a venue.
Ever since the sport of soccer was brought to Israel by British soldiers during the British Mandate, The popularity of the sport among Israelis has grown immensely. During the British Mandate, soccer was a local game played by only a few. Nowadays, international influence has made soccer Israel's most popular sport. There are even soccer spin-off sports brought to Israel, such as futsal and beach soccer, that are growing in popularity. Futsal is a type of indoor soccer that is played all around the world and even has its own World Cup, which Israel has a national team competing. Israel also has a national beach soccer team, which has been placing high in world tournaments. Also, with the growing population of women's professional soccer in the world, Israel has fielded a national women's soccer team, which is competitive in the world tournaments. Global influences on Israeli soccer has turned the sport into more than a sport. It not only influences the culture of Israel, but the economy as well.